everybody and welcome back. Well, if you're wondering why I'm so far away and sitting down, it's to give you a panoramic view of stuff, and I'm sitting down because I'm still slightly in shock. On my left, which is of course your right, I guess, you'll see I've got the wheels back. The wheels arrived same day as the tyres, and it was nice and sunny, so I stuck the tyres out into the sunshine, warm them up, and I put them on. Front one went on really easy. The back one wasn't too bad, but that's got two security bolts in, two rim locks as they call them here. So the reason, as I say, we're in panoramic view so you can see both sides of me, and the reason I'm sitting down is because wheels, tyres, tubes, stuff like that, about $1,100. Here, nice alloy barrel and stuff, is Hitchcock's next instalment in their pension plan. We've got another, it was £840, so there's another $1,100 there. So I'm feeling a little drained. Anyway, we'll press on in a minute. Glad you all liked the little trials video. The day went very well. I wanted to get more video, but funnily enough, not long into the trial we had a Bultaco break its chain tensioner, so we brought him back to the workshop and we fixed that, and then another friend's TY175 was having problems, so I was rushing about all over and I didn't quite get as much done as I wanted. Plus there's, you know, all the organisation for the barbecue and things. So there's that, and the other thing was the trip to Don's workshop. I'm glad you enjoyed that as well. It's an interesting place, and he is a really good, skilled machinist. His work is excellent. So anyway, we're obviously going to work on the Enfield today, so let me move you around and I'll show you what we're going to do. Alright, what we're going to do today is make up a couple of brackets and things, because we have to make a mounting here off the swinging arm to be the fixture for the torque, the brake torque arm, and also on this side we're going to put a prop stand on. Now, I've been looking at a lot of photographs of Enfield 350 trials bikes, and none of them that I've seen, although they may be out there, had a chain tensioner on them. So judging by where the sprocket is and everything, and the relatively limited amount of rear suspension movement we're going to have on this, I don't think we need one. So I'm not going to put one on. We'll see what happens. I can always put one on later. So we're going to do those two things. Also, as you know, those of you who've watched a few times, I like to throw in the occasional deliberate mistake to see if you've spotted it. So there's one here. I'll give you a few seconds to look at it. Okay, brake, footrest, footrest, brake. Now you all saw me weld these on, you all saw me cut them to shape, and nobody said, wait a minute Michael, where are you going to put the rear brake lever? So we're going to have to make up a little extension piece on the footrest mount for the pivot for the rear brake. So anyway, let's get started on this, because this is the easiest one, and then we'll make up the pieces for the prop stand. I've cleaned all the paint off here, so we're ready for when we want to weld it. And also what I've done is I've measured this to make sure it's running parallel, because when the brake plate moves along we want it to slide in that thing, and if this wasn't parallel it would maybe be trying to slide up or slide down and it would jam. So our next thing is of course a good old bit of cardboard. So we're going to make a piece about yay big and that long. So we'll just cut a little piece out. Now what we're going to do here, we're in one of those fortunate positions for when we weld this bracket on, in that we've got something there. So we're going to put a hole in it, put a bolt in, and it'll hold it all in place while we weld it. I'm going to put it on about there with a little spacing piece. So let's see what we got here. That's going to be about nice. So we'll tidy it up with some curves to make it look good. That will give us plenty of strength to resist that. So let me cut a piece of plate out like that, and then we'll drill a 3/8 hole in it. Now I've made up the spacer I want, and what I'm going to do is put that on there. Now make sure I've got my hole right, and then with a pen I'm going to mark it from this side. Right. So I'll go off and drill this, and then we can bolt it all together, and then I can weld it. Right. Drilled our hole, got our spacer. So we put that with that, that on there like so. A nut on the other side, and it's nicely held in place. So let's actually, I think I'll bronze that. I'll just run some bronze in there. Okay, let me go and get the welder and get it set up at this end of it. Right, have you all got your welding masks on? Forgot to mention that last time. Okay. This is slightly awkward because I can't support myself well. But we'll give it a go. Okay, there's one intact. Come on now. And I've got my foot on the hose. Okay, there we go. That will hold that while we do other stuff, and then when we take the wheel out and I can get at it, I'll do both sides. So the next thing we'll do is the prop stand, and we're going to make it the same as this one that I put on the BSA. So it's a sort of fold round piece that this goes inside of, and this has a sleeve in it, so that when it's clamped up, it clamps on the sleeve and not on this. So let's get some card and we'll make a template for that. Now I've made the template in 3 pieces. You could make it in 1, but I find it easier to do it this way because I want one piece to be like that, to fit onto there. So what I've basically made is that piece, and a piece to go on the back. So, whoops. What I'm going to do is tape those together, and then you'll see that they will fold round and go onto there. So let me stick some tape on these pieces. Now, I'll tape these together. I've changed the shape of this one very slightly because when I was holding them up to show you, I realised that at an angle, because of the way I had them cut, they would have disappeared down there. So I've cut, where are we? I've cut that top edge, you see, at a slope up like that. So that now when we put this on, we can put it at a bit of an angle and it'll still be fine like that, and it's going to come out slightly so that the leg comes down here. So what I'm going to do now is cut a piece of 1/8 inch, at least I hope I've got some 1/8 inch, I think I have. If not, we're going to come to a dramatic halt. Cut a piece exactly like this, fold it up, and then what we're actually going to do is we're going to drill this, make the prop stand itself, because I want to know exactly where I'm going to put this. And the best way to do that is we'll tilt the bike over, it's on straps to hold it, we'll tilt it over until we get it to the angle we want, and then we can offer this up with the prop stand and tack it in place, and then take the prop stand out and fasten it up completely. Well, I found one piece which is just big enough, so I've marked on it what I need. Let me cut that out and then we'll do our bends. I've cut it to shape and marked where the needs to be bent, so we'll use this. This is one of those jobs I should have done ages ago. You get different sized pieces of angle to fit in, you sort of stack them up, and it allows you to, because the angle gets smaller and smaller, or the gap between the two sides anyway, you can do smaller and smaller pieces. And I keep meaning to go out and buy a couple of lengths of angle that will nest into each other, and I haven't. So fortunately, this is about the limit of what it'll do with this size angle. So let's have a go with this. Do you know what? I don't think I've used this since I bought it. And I bought it because when I looked at the bending brakes, the ones to bend something like this were a fortune. And not only that, but the thing is, you couldn't just get it with an increased capacity for heavier gauge materials. As soon as the capacity for the gauge went up, they got longer and longer. So anyway, let's see what happens. Well, it hasn't come shooting out and hit me in the forehead, so I guess we're all right. I must admit, it is a lot better than sticking it in the vise and beating the living daylights out of it with a hammer. So there's the first bend. Of course, this might turn out really poorly and we'll have to start again, but we shall see. I don't know if this is going to bend all the way or if this side is going to come up against that. It's going to be a close run thing. But hopefully it'll be bent enough that we can just massage it slightly. Right, there we go. Yeah, I opened this out a little bit, look. Anyway, we'll put it on and see what it looks like. Right, that bending thing worked well. Would have been better with the other angles in, but what I haven't quite got the hang of yet is taking into account the thickness of the metal. So this bent out slightly on the outside of the marks, so it was loose. But fortunately, say this tube's 1.25 inches, it doesn't matter so much with this. What really matters is that these two are parallel for the prop stand to move in. So I found something that was 1.25 inches. I put it in there and put it in the vise, and as you can see, it's just put a bow in that, but that doesn't matter. In fact, it even looks quite nice. So now when we put it up there, there we go. So as I say, it's back this way, so the prop stand will come down there, and we'll move it out so the prop stand comes out. So the next thing we're going to do is drill our hole in here. Now obviously we want that to go right through there, so again we're going to use this. I'll put that in there like that, pop it in the vise, and then that'll hold it while I'm pressing down with the drill to go right through the two pieces. So let's do that. Now the next thing we've got to plan out is where we're actually going to put this hole, because you've got a certain number of things you've got to bear in mind. This is a 3/8 washer. I'm going to use a 3/8 bolt. So if you have it too far down here, then this part, which is the stop, is, you know, it's going to be a huge angle like that. The further up you go, the more that is going to act as a stop, till you get to the point up there where it's virtually like that. But the further down you come, see, the more of an angle you get. So the other thing, well, there's a couple of other things to say. This is a 3/8 washer, so that's about as big as the hole is going to be. But then around that, there's going to be a piece of tube, which is the sleeve that we're going to trap in between here. We're actually going to bolt up tight onto the sleeve, and then the prop stand, the cross piece of the prop stand will actually be slightly smaller, so it'll pivot in there even though this is tightened up. So we've got to have enough room to be able to get the bolt, the sleeve, and then the tube of the cross piece. So it's got to be far enough away from this side, and also don't forget we come down there. So we're going to put it about there, because this is certainly as thick as the sleeve is going to be. So as long as the sleeve is inside, it doesn't matter actually too much if the tube or the cross piece is there. But again, the further out you go, the greater the angle you're going to get here, which is why I always like to do these sort of complete and then offer it up to the bike. So that gives us enough. The cutaway is about there. So that's where the tube's going to be roughly, the swinging arm tube. So we've got to be below that enough for everything to pivot. We've got to be away from this side. So I think about there is right. So let's mark that. I'll put a pop on that. And as I say, we'll put the piece inside so it doesn't collapse when we're drilling it, and we'll drill right through so that we get the two of them lined up. The two holes lined up, that is. So here we are set up to drill holes. There's our 1¼ piece to stop it collapsing. Down here you can see some wood, because it virtually fills the vise, so I couldn't put it on parallels so that we don't go right through. Okay. Oh, I've turned the what's it off. The what's it being the 3-phase converter. One side, I'll put some oil down there. Some wood coming through. All right. And there we have our hole nicely through on the same both sides. So let's give that a clean up, get this off, and we'll see about making the actual prop stand. What we're going to use for the prop stand is some 3/4 inch tube, thin wall. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, so this should be 1 1/4, but as I say, I bent it a little bit on the outside, so it's slightly, yeah, it's like 1 5/16. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut a piece of this 1 1/4 inch, and that'll fit in there as a slack fit. So let me face this off on the lathe, and then I'll cut a piece 1 1/4 inch, and that'll slap in there. So let me go and do that. So there's the piece that's going to go in there. As I say, it wants to be a nice loose fit. Doesn't want to be a hugely loose fit, but that needs to be able to turn on the next piece we're going to make. So the next thing we're going to do is make a piece to go in here. So it's going to have, this ID's going to be its OD, and then we're going to drill it 3/8. So this wants to be, well, it's basically 645. And of course, being ordinary tube, it's not completely round. So we're going to make it about, we'll do it 645, and then we'll keep trying it so that we get a nice slip fit on it, which then we'll grease it. So let's get some 3/4 inch round to start with. There's our piece of 3/4 inch round stock. So we'll touch off. I'll go in 10 thou. Oh, hang on. The cross slide on this, you have to have it in reverse for it to go across. So I've got to turn this back to forward. Alright, to make the carriage go that way. I think we can go faster than that. That's better. Okay, we'll measure this and then I'll turn it down to the size, but I'll just bring you back when I'm where I want to be for our first slip fit test. 734. Well, I took it to 642 and it's pretty close, so let me just polish it up a little bit and then we'll see what that hat does. God, I've lost the button. There it is. Either one end of the tube is slightly smaller, or we've got the tiniest little taper. We're reading 635 there. No, we're reading 635 there, so it must be in the tube. One thing in this tube, you won't be able to see it, but it's, you can see the discoloration there? It's a welded seam, so there's a little bit of a seam down the inside. So let me just see if I can get that out, and then I'll bring you back. I just worked down that line with a round file. Still seems to go on easier one way than the other. So what we'll do is we'll polish it up with some Scotch-Brite, touch of the Adam Booths if anybody watches him. There we go with that. The one thing I missed from the Colchester is it had a brake on it. That is just about nice. I know there must be a little bit of something on the end of that. But anyway, that goes on there a treat. Something just in the middle of this. We'll work that a little bit more. So I'm going to cut this off, and then we'll drill a 3/8 hole through it. Now here are our three pieces. So there's the centre piece, which goes in there. And don't forget, I might actually take another couple of thou off, because there's going to be paint on this. So that goes in there, and the prop stand will be welded to that. The idea is that that goes in, up, come on. There we go. So that goes in there like thus. That gets tightened up. Make sure you're still in focus. So it's gripping the centre piece, and that bit, you see, still turns. So our prop stand will still move. So the next thing for us to do is to get the piece of tube, do the little bird's mouth, whatever you want to call it, and we'll fasten that on there. And then we'll see about actually getting the prop stand right. Now I've made a coping cut, or a bird's mouth, or whatever you want to call it. Check this is square to here and it's in the middle. So let me just stick that on there, and then we'll go at the next stage. So there it is, bronzed on. I'm really getting to like this TIG bronzing, Charlie. One thing you might find is if you use a thin wall tube, or the thinner the wall, the more it'll distort a little bit. So be prepared for that. You might have to clean the bore up a little bit. So that still goes in there nicely. And now I've put the other bit down. Oh, there it is. Staring me in the face. So that goes in there. I won't bolt it all up. That would go in there. And then that, you see, goes on there like that. So what we're going to do next is we're going to tip the bike over to get to the angle we want, and then we'll fasten this on. So that's going to go catching on everything. Then that'll go up there like that. We'll put a rubber stopper and everything on, and it'll be nicely out the way. Okay. So, see, we can move that round a little bit if we need to. it's so flexible if you do it this way. If you were to weld that on first and then try to do, there are so many variables in this that I just don't like to do it sort of starting at one end. I like to build the whole of this up and then put it on where I need it. I mean, you can, you know, if you really got a long way out, you could even sort of fasten it that way and then put a piece in, but we'll be fine. So I'm going to go off and have my it's burger and corn on the cob tonight, and then we'll get this finished for this week's video. And I have one other thing to do. So that's it for today. See you later on. Now the next thing we want to do is lean the bike over to where we want it to be when it's on the prop stand. Something about like that. Well, just enough. So what I'm going to do now is mark the bottom of this, cut it at an angle, and then we're going to weld a little plate on as a foot. And that, I think, will be pretty good. Okay, so mark, 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 pen, 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 pen. Well, I'll go and find a pen and then we'll mark this and cut it. And there I've welded it well, bronzed on, just a little foot. You can make the foot as big as you want. I just like to have a small one so that it doesn't sink in too much. Okay, so the next thing to do is to offer this up to the swinging arm and then we can bronze it on there. Now there it is, set in place. So we'll put a couple of little bits of, the chair won't move. Put a couple of bits of bronze on to hold it in place, because you never know, you might have got something wrong. And when we've done that, we'll check everything out. You can't pick things up when you put your gloves on. Alright, mind your eyes. Okay. So, I'm not going to put the weight on it yet because that won't hold it. I just want to check to see that it will swing up out of the way. So let's just slacken this off a little bit. Just nice. Right, so I'm going to finish or do some more bronze as much as I can while it's still in place, and then we'll look at putting the spring on. You know, Steam Shop Dave and I were just talking the other day about truth in video. Won't mention who we were talking about, but I've bronzed all this on, I bronzed that on both sides, took the swinging arm out to do it, and when I put it back together, look, this is going too far. I don't understand that at all. So, as Charlie Prescott once mentioned to me, he said, I'm sure you make the mistakes just so you can show us how to put them right. So, what we need here is for this to come up there like that. Now there's a couple of ways I could do this, but probably the easiest thing to do is, this is aluminium, but I have some 1/4 inch steel. I'm just going to cut a little piece of 1/4 inch thick to go in there to act like that. What you could also do actually is put a cut in there and then tap that in and weld it back up again, just to move the back part here in. But that really annoyed me. Anyway, that's actually, you can't see it, but the straps are loose. That is on the stand. Hang on, let me just undo this thing on the front wheel here to give it a little more looseness. That's letting the front wheel. But that is fine on there. That's going to work a treat. So I'll make that little repair at some point in time. I actually think I could have put this further up as well, which would have given us even more. But anyway, that's the way it works. When you make yours, you'll make it perfectly. Alright, the next thing is the spring. And I have a spring somewhere. Let me turn you off for those people who don't like to be sitting there while I'm getting things. Alright, it's a good job I turned you off, because I'd be damned if I could remember where I put it, and I'd only just carried it in. Right, now normally for springs I like to use the ones for the BSA 250s. They're just a nice length. But I didn't have one, and I was at my friend Mike Coleman's trial shop this morning, so I asked him did he have any, and he had this one here. So I'm going to zoom you in a little bit, because I'm going to explain about the positioning of the spring. Now then, this actually is a little bit like chain tension. If you imagine, this is the swinging arm and the spring is the chain. Your sprocket's up here, so the swinging arm doesn't actually move where the chain is. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a pin up here that it fastens onto. Now some people say they should be on the inside to put them out the way, but to be honest, I have never had one of these springs come off, you know, catch on my boot or anything else, and it's a damn sight easier to do it on the front than it is on the back. So what we're going to have is we're going to have a pin up here and a pin on the actual thing, but we don't want it to be there. What we want is to position the top end so that it's in tension when it's in there and it's in tension when it's over there. Right, so really I guess we want it about here. As the arm swings through, it's going to get a bit longer. That's why when you put your prop stand out, it sort of goes boink or boink going that way, because as it swings around it gets stretched and then it pulls in, because it's slightly shorter distance from there than it is down there to here. So as I say, what we're going to do is we're going to mount it on a couple of pegs. It's one of the reasons actually as well why I like to use the mushroom top ones, because it gives you a little bit more space. So we've got to work out where that's going to go. I think it'll be clear in my boot. Do I want it to be that way? Yeah. As I've never done one on an Enfield before, you're seeing this in the raw sort of thing, because you don't want it to climb over that or it probably will pop it off. It's got to be clear of that. So see, that would be pulling that tight there, but if it was too far down it wouldn't be pulling this, so it's got to be up so that it's pulling at that, and there so that it's pulling at that. So I think it's going to need to be about there. Okay, well the first thing I'm going to do anyway is make up the two pins that will go in here to mount it. Now just in case that explanation wasn't too obvious, I thought we'd look at this one. I'm going to make two pins just the same. Now you see how that is at an angle. When we look at that line there, that's at an angle, so it's pulling it into the into the stop. And as I say, here you can just about see the spring gets stretched, and then here again there's that straight line through the pivot and it's off to the side of it. So we need this to be off that centre line in both positions. So there it's off to the right, there it's off to the left, and there's the BSA springs I like to use. As I say, I like to use them because they've got the round things as opposed to the hooks. But fortunately, look, that's a similar length, so chances are I could put a BSA one on later on. So anyway, that's the plan. So let me make these two things here. Now here are the two pins I've made, and you can see the two different lengths. This is the one that's going to go in the swinging arm, because I'm sure that that is the right length, but you're never actually exactly certain how long you want it to be to go into the stand itself, so that the spring clears everything. So I always make one longer, and then I'll put this one in. You can see it's got that there, it's got a recess, the spring goes on that. Then what I'm going to do is in the swinging arm I'll drill a 1/4 inch hole, that's slightly more than 1/4 inch, so I can bang that in and it'll be held tight and I can get it more or less where I want it. Then I'll bronze it. Then when I've got the spring on, I can go to the other end and I'll see how high I need this to be. So if it needs to be longer than that, I'm fine. If it needs to be shorter, I can just turn it down to the size I want. So there's those two. So let's drill a couple of holes and put the first one in. I've drilled the first hole, so let's put this in here. As I say, I've made this little so it'll be a tight fit. There we go. Now you see I can joggle this about a little bit as I need it. So that's going to go on there. Now you see I can see now how long I want it, and I don't need it to be that long. It wants to be about like that. So I'll bronze that one in, and then we'll cut this the length we want and we'll mark a hole here. Now I bronzed that one on, and while it was cooling I made a little piece to go in here to rectify my mistake there. So what I've made is this little piece here, which is going to get bronzed in there. Oh. Ow! It's that little piece, and look at that. I used the bender that's in the press, 1/4 inch steel. It just bent it beautifully. So that is going to go in there and get bronzed in. So let me bronze that in there, and then we'll put this in and finish off. I'll put the little piece in here. So now we're much better there. So now we're going to work out where we're going to put this. Now, as I say, we want it so that this is in tension here and it's in tension there. So we need the spring stretched a little bit. Now then, as we all know, these springs are really stiff, so what I normally do is put some washers in like that. Now this spring was 5.5 inches long, it's now 5 7/8. So I've extended the spring nicely. So that is going to go on there like that. And we're going to need this to go on here. Just about there, so I'll mark it there. So it wants to go on there. And if we have it there, see, that's the spot. So we're going to drill a 1/4 inch hole in there, and then I'll see how long I want that piece to be. Okay, so we want that to be about a 1/2 inch. So from there to here wants to be a 1/2 inch, and I've got it at it's actually 7/8. So we'll run this up here 3/8, cut that off a little bit and drill our hole there. So I've drilled my hole, pressed that in there, so I'll bronze it on and then we can put our spring on. Now that's bronzed on, still a little warm, but let's see if we can get this spring on. It should be very close. Alright, that's that on. Hold on a second. There, I went away then, you didn't even know. Well, that is still hot. Wahey! Did you hear where that one went? And another one. I guess I should take them off a little more circumspectly. My hand's in the way there, isn't it? But it can't be helped. Alright, last one. And so the last thing you do, I actually don't have any of the right size, is you get a piece of rubber tube, split it, glue it on there to act as a buffer. So there we go. One prop stand. Tighten all that up and that'll be splendid. Okay. Let's see, put that there like that. Now then, that's it for this week, and there isn't going to be a video next week because my daughter Vicky is arriving from the UK tomorrow, collecting her brother in Philadelphia, and they're coming up and we're going away for a few days. So sorry about that, you'll have to think of something else to do next Sunday. So until 2 weeks hence, enjoy yourselves.